Hello everyone. Today we are going to study the second topic of financial services named venture capital and securitization. First, introduction. Venture capital is a type of private equity capital produced by professional outside investor to new growth business, generally made as cash in exchange for shares in the investee company. Venture capital investment are usually high risk but offer the potential for above average return. व्हेंचर कॅपिटल इज अ प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी म्हणजेच की एक प्रायव्हेट कंपनी जी पैसे गुंतवत असते ती प्रायव्हेट कंपनी आपल्या कंपनीमध्ये पैसे इन्व्हेस्ट करते आणि आपण त्या बदल्यात त्यांना इक्विटी शेअर्स इश्यू करतो. त्याला म्हणायचं प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी. आणि ज्या कंपन्या लहान आहेत किंवा नवीन आहेत त्यांचे भांडवल किंवा फंडसुद्धा कमी आहे अशा वेळी त्यांच्यामध्ये व्हेंचर कॅपिटल फायनान्स केली जाते. A type of financing that investors provide so that are believed to have long-term growth potential. म्हणजे अशा लहान कंपन्या त्यांना असे वाटते की या ठिकाणी जर आपण पैसे इन्व्हेस्ट केले ते पुढे जाऊन त्यांना नक्कीच खूप फायदा होऊ शकतो कारण त्यांची तेवढी कॅपेबिलिटी आहे. यालाच व्हेंचर कॅपिटल फायनान्स असे म्हटले जाते. नेक्स्ट इज मीनिंग ऑफ व्हेंचर कॅपिटल. Venture capital works for corporate that invest their clients' money in businesses that often have high risk factors. These businesses may be startup companies that cannot find funding thought a lot more traditional means for that seek for funding to fuel projected growth. व्हेंचर कॅपिटल म्हणजे साहसी भांडवल किंवा उपक्रम भांडवल असा त्याचा शब्दशः अर्थ होतो. उपक्रम भांडवल हा खाजगी इक्विटी भांडवलाचा एक प्रकार आहे आणि असा एक प्रकार की ज्यामध्ये व्यवसाय वाढवण्यासाठी बाहेरील नवीन गुंतवणूकदार प्रदान करीत असतात. आता आपण व्याख्या पाहूया. डेफिनेशन ऑफ व्हेंचर कॅपिटल. Startup companies with the potential to growth nail a certain amount of investment. Will the investors like to invest their capital in such business with long-term growth? This capital is known as venture capital and the investors are called venture capitalists. साधारणपणे जेव्हा गुंतवणूकदार रोख रक्कम या व्यवसायामध्ये गुंतवित असतात तेव्हा त्या बदल्यात त्यांना चांगल्या रिटर्नची संभाव्य ऑफर दिली जाते. या व्यवसायामध्ये धोकेसुद्धा खूप असतात परंतु रिटर्नसुद्धा भरपूर प्रमाणात मिळतात. आता या व्यवसायामध्ये कोण कोण असू शकतं? ज्यांच्याकडे खूप संपत्ती आहे किंवा पैसा आहे, मग ते हाय नेटवर्क इंडिव्हिज्युअल असो म्हणजे ज्यांच्याकडे खूप पैसे असतील, बँक असेल किंवा एखादी संस्था असेल, असे लोक ज्यांच्याकडे जास्त पैसे आहेत ते या व्यवसायामध्ये गुंतवणूक करत असतात. नेक्स्ट, देर आर सम कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ व्हेंचर कॅपिटल. लेट अस नाव स्टडी द कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक वन बाय वन. फर्स्ट इज व्हेंचर कॅपिटल ॲज अ सोर्स ऑफ फायनान्सिंग इज डिस्टिंक्ट फ्रॉम अदर सोर्सेस ऑफ फायनान्सिंग बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स युनिक कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक ॲज सेड out below. First is venture capital is essentially financing of new venture through equity participation. However, such investment may also take a form of long-term loans, purchases of opinion or securities. The main objective underlying investment in equities is to earn capital gains there on subsequently when the enterprises become profitable. Next is venture capital makes long-term investment in highly potential ventures of technical survey entrepreneurs whom returns may be available after a long period, says 5 to 10 years. Next characteristic, Venture capital does not to supply of equity capital but also supply of skill for the growth of development of enterprises. Venture capitalists ensure active participants in the management which the entrepreneurs business and provide their marketing, technology, planning and management enterprises to the firm. And last, venture capital financing involves high risk return spectrum. Some of ventures may yield very high returns to more than for heavy losses on other which may also having earning prospects. This is some characteristics of venture capital. Let's now see the types of venture capital funding. The first professional investor to a deal at the startup stage is referred to as a series A investor. This investment is followed by middle and larger stage funding. This series B, C and D rounds. The final rounds include large stage and pre-IPO funding. A venture capital may specialize in provide just one of this series of funding or may offer funding for all stages of the business life cycle. It's important to know the preference of the venture capital you are approaching and clearly agree that what type of funding you are seeking. First type of seed capital. If you are just starting out, have a no product or organized company yet, you would be seeking seed capital. Few venture capitals fund at this stage and the amount invested would probably be small. Investment capital may be used to create a sample product, fund market research or cover administrative setup cost. The seed capital is the first type of venture capital funding. Next is startup capital. At this time, or your company would have a sample product available with at last one principal working full-time. Funding at this stage is also rate. It turns to cover recruitment of other key management, additional market research and finalizing of the product to services to introduction to the marketplace. This is the second type of venture capital, startup capital. Third one, early stage capital. In that 2 or 3 years into your venture, you have gotten your company off a ground, a management team is in place and sales are increasing. In this stage, venture capital funding could help you increase sales to the break-even point, improve your productivity or increases your company's efficiency. Next is expansion capital. Your company is well established and now you are looking to venture capitals to help take your business to the next level of growth. Funding at this stage may help you enter new market or increases your marketing efforts. Next one, late stage capital. In this stage, your company has achieved impressive sales and revenue and you have a second level of management in place. You may looking for funds to increases capacity, ramp up marketing or increases working capital. Next is Bridge financing means you may also be looking for a partner to help you find a measure of acquisition opportunity or attract public finance in those in thought a stock of offering. There are phases that focus on the end of the business. Spectrum specializing in title means म्हणजे तुम्ही तुमचा व्यवसाय वाढवण्यासाठी एक पार्टनरच्या शोधात आहात की दोघे मिळून तुम्ही व्यवस्थित व्यवसाय करू शकता. In bridge financing, public offering our recapitalization. If you are planning a fishy, many also assist with the bridge financing, short-term financing that allows you to pay for a cost associated with going public. This is a partnership business. It's called a partnership business. Now we learn the venture capital's funding process. There are 6 steps and we study them one by one. Venture capital funding process. Step 1, deal organization. Venture capital financing begins with organization of a deal. For venture capital, business stream of deal is necessary. There may be various sources of organization of deals. One such source is referral system, in which deals are referred to venture capitals and capitalized by their parent organization, trade partners, industry, association, friends, etc. Another source of deal flow is the active search thought network, trade fair, conference, seminars, foreign receipt, etc. Certain intermediaries who act as link between venture capitalists and the potential entrepreneurs also become source of deal organization. Next step, screening. Venture capitalist is his endeavor to choose the best venture first of all, undertakes preliminary of all project on the basis of certain broad criteria such as technology or product, mix scope, size of investment, geographical location and stage of financing. Venture capitalists in India ask the applicant to provide a brief profile of proposed venture to establish prima facie eligibility. Entrepreneurs are also invited for face-to-face discussion for seeking certain clarification. The third step is evaluation. After a proposal has passed the preliminary screening, a detailed evaluation of proposal takes place. A detailed search of project profile, track record of entrepreneur, market potential, technological feasibility, features, turnover, profitability, etc. is undertaken. Venture capitalist is in Indian factor is an entrepreneur's background, especially in terms of integrity, long-term vision, agree to grow managerial skill and business operations. They also consider the entrepreneurs enter skill, technical competency, manufacturing and market ability and entrepreneurs. Further, the project's valuability in terms of project, market and technology is examined. Behind venture capitals in India undertake thought risk analysis of proposal to a certain product risk, market risk, technological and entrepreneurial risk. After considering the deal details, various aspects of a proposal, venture capitalists take a final decision in terms of risk, return, spectrum and brought a figure. Next, step 4, deal negotiation. Once the Venture is found variable. The venture capitalist negotiates the terms of deal with the entrepreneur. This is does so as protect its interest. Terms of the deals include amount from the price of the investment. It also contains protective covenants such as venture capitalist right to control the venture company and to change its management if necessary by bank arrangements, acquisition, marketing, IPOs. Terms of deals should be manually beneficial to both venture capitalist and the entrepreneur. It should be flexible and its structure should interest of both the parties. Next is step 5, post investment activity. Once deal is financed and the venture begins working, the venture capitalist associated himself with enterprise as partner and collaborator in order to ensure that enterprise is operating as per the plan. In step 4, this is does so as to protect as interest. Term of deal include amount from and price of the investment. It also contains such as venture capitalist right to control the venture company and to change its management. It necessary by bank arrangements, acquisition, making, IPOs. Terms of the deal should be manually beneficial to both venture capitalist and the entrepreneur. It should be flexible and its structure should safeguard interest of both of the parties. Next step 5, post investment activity. Once the deal is financed and the venture begins working, the venture capitalist associates himself with the enterprise as a partner and collaborated in order to ensure that the enterprise is operating as per the plan. The venture capitalist participation in the enterprise is generally thought a representation in the board of directors of or informal influence in improving the quality of marketing, finance, and the managerial functions. Generally, the venture capitalist does not meddle in day-to-day working of the enterprise. It when a financial or managerial crisis take place. Next step of venture capital financing, step 6, exit plan, and this is the last step of venture capital funding process. The last stage of venture capital financing is the exit to release the investment so as to make a profit or minimize losses. The venture capitalist should make exit plan determining precise timing of exit that would depend on the factors such as nature of venture, the extent and type of financial stake, and state of actual and potential competition, market condition, etc. These all steps of venture capital funding process is very important to you the terms of exam. There are some chart in venture capital investment process, screening, evaluation, approval. The mention in that the decision is very important in every investment process. In screening, market product is equal expected return as well as entrepreneur product managerial as well as expected return in all the decision in venture capital investment process. Next is features of venture capital, and first feature is high risk. High risk mutual funds refer to funds that have excellent potential and ability to provide high returns. These high risk mutual funds typically provide great dividend to an investor. If you someone who willing to take a high risk in order to receive good return, then you can choose such a fund. म्हणजे नवीन कंपनी जी असते त्यांच्याजवळ जास्त किंवा भरपूर प्रमाणात स्टार्टअप नसतो, अशा कंपन्या जेव्हा सुरुवात करतात तेव्हा त्यांना ह्या धोक्याचा सामना करावा लागतो. म्हणजेच त्यांना हाय रिस्क हा जो धोका आहे या धोक्याचा त्यांना सामना करावा लागतो. नेक्स्ट फीचर आहे लॅक ऑफ लिक्विडिटी. In that, limited ventures capital fund liquidity and a records rate of startup launches may lead to a complicated. These companies would be forced to seek alternatives, often more expensive funding. This is turn may limit their growth or result in failure, which venture capital's backing would have prevented. लॅक ऑफ लिक्विडिटी म्हणजेच अशा प्रकारामध्ये वेळ लागतो. ज्या ठिकाणी आपण इन्व्हेस्टमेंट केलेली आहे तो पैसा आपण गुंतवलेला पैसा आपण सहजपणे काढू शकत नाही. तो काढण्यासाठी आपल्याला वेळ लागतो. या गुंतवणुकीला काही वर्षही लागू शकतात. 5 वर्ष ते 10 वर्ष एवढा कालावधीसुद्धा लागू शकतात. म्हणूनच ही एक रिस्क आहे लॅक ऑफ लिक्विडिटी. नेक्स्ट इज long term horizon. A investment time horizon is period where one expect to hold an investment for a specific goal. The longer an time horizon, the more aggressive or riskier portfolio an investor can build. The shorter than time horizon, the more conservative or less risky the investor may want to adopt. लॉंग टर्म हॉरिझनमध्ये यामध्ये 2 प्रमाणे स्टार्टअप वाढवण्यासाठी सुद्धाच की खूप वर्षांचा वेळ लागू शकतो. म्हणजेच की लॉंग टर्म भरपूर वेळ लागू शकतो आपला स्टार्टअप वाढवण्यासाठी प्रत्येक कंपनीला. आणि जी कंपनी नवीन आहे किंवा ज्यांनी नवीन व्यवसाय सुरू केलेला आहे अशा कंपनीला त्यांचा स्टार्टअप वाढवण्यासाठी लॉंग टर्म लागू शकतो, जास्त वेळ लागू शकतो. नेक्स्ट इज इक्विटी पार्टिसिपेंट. What is equity participant? Equity participant refers to the ownership of shares in a company of property. Equity participation may involve the purchase of shares through option or by allowing partial ownership in exchange for financing. The greater the equity participant rate, the higher of percentage of shares owned by stakeholders. म्हणजेच जेव्हा कोणी इन्व्हेस्टर कंपनीमध्ये पैसे लावतो तेव्हा त्याला त्या बदल्यात आपण इक्विटी शेअर्स देतो. म्हणजेच की आपल्या कंपनीमध्ये इक्विटी शेअर्ससाठी पार्टिसिपेंट आलेले आहेत. ज्यावेळेस नवीन कंपनी आपल्या कंपनीमध्ये इन्व्हेस्ट करते तेव्हा आपण त्यांच्याकडून पैसे घेतो आणि त्याच्या बदल्यात आपली कंपनी त्या नवीन कंपनीला इक्विटी शेअर्स इश्यू करते. नेक्स्ट इज इनोव्हेटिव्ह प्रोजेक्ट. हे असे प्रोजेक्ट आहेत जे सर्वांपेक्षा डिफरंट असतात, वेगळे असतात. याच्यामध्ये वेगळ्या प्रकारचे चार्ट असतात. नेक्स्ट इज पार्टिसिपेट इन मॅनेजमेंट. यामध्ये कंपनीमध्ये जी नवीन कंपनी आलेली आहे ती कंपनी पार्टिसिपेट करत असते. म्हणजेच की नवीन कंपनी जुन्या कंपनीमध्ये आपले मत मांडत असते किंवा इक्विटी शेअर्स किंवा इतर कोणत्याही प्रकारचे डिबेंचर्स किंवा कंडिशनल लोन जे असतात त्या दोन्हीवरती ती कंपनी आपले मत मांडू शकते. म्हणजेच की पार्टिसिपेट इन द मॅनेजमेंट म्हणजे आपले मत त्या कंपनीमध्ये मांडून ती कंपनी एक मताने किंवा एका अर्थाने त्या कंपनीमध्ये आपला भाग किंवा आपला हिस्सा नोंदवत असते, पार्टिसिपेट करत असते. हे आहेत फीचर्स ऑफ वेंचर कॅपिटल: हाय रिस्क, लॅक ऑफ लिक्विडिटी, लॉंग टर्म हॉरिझन, इक्विटी पार्टिसिपेंट, इनोव्हेटिव्ह प्रोजेक्ट, पार्टिसिपेट इन द मॅनेजमेंट. Let's now see the advantages and disadvantages of venture investment. When a startup has interesting ideas for businesses but there is no money for its implementation, venture investment will be very useful. The businessman is not obliged to provide guarantees to investors. The development of businesses is in accordance with the contract. There are no clear rules in terms of distribution of parties. How does venture capital investment look like and the part of the investor? How profitable are these types of startups? Venture capital's investment have their advantages and disadvantages. Look at them. The advantages of investors. First is, if the project is successful, the investor receives a substantial profit. These are in case when innovative ideas brings to sponsor about 1000% in just a few months if you will be lucky. In short period of time, you can become a owner of successful business. Second, if often happens to that it is profitable for an investor to become the owner of 50% of a small startup than 0.02% of a large businesses. And next, valuable business experience. By investing in a startup, you will receive lots of successful or useful information. Next, shortcomings for investors. First is, investing in a new startup involves high risk. The author of the idea has no obligations. There are no guarantees of success. Given the strong competition, there is always a risk of bankrupt. Be ready to part with the money. It is no secret that some startups are not at all entrepreneurial in nature. They are ordinary crooks. They attract trustworthy depositors. They organized presentations, but once the funds were received, they dispatched in order to agree the cooperation with investors. It is advisable to conclude a contract. Next, specifies of venture capital investment. First is, investment occurs at the moment of project opening when the capital is just being formed. It is quite possible that part of funds is contributed before the registration of the organization. Investors look only the business plan as it knows as it is not possible to estimate the practical profitability now. Next, the creator of startup does not guarantee anything to investor. In case of failure, the person who invested the money will not be able to demand it back. Third one, when you become an investor in venture project, you acquire a part of it, which is specified in a separate contract. When a project starts to make a profit, you can count on your share. The amount of this share does not always depend directly on amount of investment. Sometimes it happens that the creator of startup does not invest anything in his or her project or invest very little, and the main part of the investment is taken over by investors. However, the investor cannot own more 50% of the project. Fourth one, some startups have allowed investors to increase their investment several times in short time. A high percentage of profit is significant plus. After all, even one successful investment will be able to cover several unsuccessful ones, and if investor also processes skill of startup evaluation, it will not be difficult for him to choose a suitable project. Next is It is not necessary to invest in venture startups at the moment of its opening. It happens that the needs funds in the process of working. 6.1. In the case of classical investment, the investor may seek to buy a controlling stake in the company or simply a significant part of it. If the investor has a controlling interest, his or her vote will be decisive the making important decisions and board of the directors. The sponsor does not aim to buy back controlling stake. This is the advantages and disadvantages of venture capital or venture investment. व्हेंचर कॅपिटल म्हणजेच की याचा मराठीमध्ये शब्दशः अर्थ होतो उपक्रम किंवा साहसी भांडवल. उपक्रम भांडवल हा एक खाजगी इक्विटी भांडवलाचा एक प्रकार आहे ज्यामध्ये व्यवसाय वाढवण्यासाठी बाहेरील नवीन गुंतवणूकदार प्रदान करीत असतात. साधारणपणे जेव्हा गुंतवणूकदार रोख रक्कम या व्यवसायामध्ये गुंतवत असतो आणि त्या बदल्यात त्याला चांगल्या रिटर्न्सची संभाव्य ऑफर दिली जाते. या व्यवसायामध्ये रिस्क म्हणजेच धोके काही प्रमाणात असतात परंतु रिटर्न्ससुद्धा भरपूर प्रमाणात मिळतात. या व्यवसायामध्ये ज्या व्यक्तींकडे खूप प्रमाणात संपत्ती आहे किंवा पैसे आहेत, मग ते बँका असतील, संस्था असेल, एखादी मोठी कंपनी असेल, अशा व्यक्ती या कंपनीमध्ये इन्व्हेस्ट करत असतात. म्हणजेच की ज्या व्यक्तींकडे भरपूर प्रमाणात पैसे आहेत त्या व्यक्ती याच्यामध्ये गुंतवणूक करत असतात. याचा अर्थ असा नाही की ज्यांच्याकडे पैसे नाही आहेत किंवा ज्यांचा फंड कमी आहेत अशी लोक याच्यामध्ये इन्व्हेस्ट करू शकत नाहीत. ज्या कंपन्या लहान आहेत आणि ज्यांना असं वाटतं की या ठिकाणी पैसे इन्व्हेस्ट केल्यानंतर आपण पुढे जाऊ शकतो किंवा आपल्यालाही फायदा होऊ शकतो आणि आपल्या कंपनीमध्ये तेवढी कॅपॅसिटी आहे, आपली तेवढी कॅपेबिलिटी आहे, तेव्हा त्या कंपन्यासुद्धा यामध्ये इन्व्हेस्ट करत असतात. या कंपन्या पैशांच्या बदल्यात इक्विटी शेअर्स घेतात आणि आपला व्यवसाय वाढवण्याचा प्रयत्न करतात. प्रत्येक वेळेस इक्विटी शेअर्स घेतात असं नाही. काही वेळेस डिबेंचर्स म्हणजेच की एक पार्टिसिपेंट डिबेंचर्स म्हणजेच की असा प्रकार जो शेअर्सचा आहे त्या प्रकारच्या शेअर्समध्ये सुद्धा कंपन्या गुंतवणूक करू शकतात. दीर्घकालीन विकास जेव्हा आपल्याला करावयाचा असतो तेव्हा गुंतवणूकदार या व्यवसायामध्ये गुंतवणूक करत असतात. छोट्या कंपन्या किंवा ज्या कंपन्यांनी नवीनच सुरुवात केलेली आहे अशा कंपन्या ज्यांना अजूनही स्टार्टअप मिळालेला नसतो किंवा बाजारपेठेमध्ये त्यांनी व्यवस्थित सुरुवात केलेली नसते, अशा कंपन्यांना या ठिकाणी इन्व्हेस्ट करणं म्हणजे एक संधी असते. यामध्ये यशस्वी होण्यासाठी थोडा वेळ लागतो कारण एकदा गुंतवलेला पैसा आपण सहजासहजी काढू शकत नाही. त्या गुंतवणुकीला काही वर्ष लागू शकतात कारण यशस्वी होण्यासाठी आपल्याला तेवढा वेळ वाट पाहणं खूप आवश्यक असतं. अशा प्रकारे आपण फायनान्शियल सर्व्हिसेस या विषयामधला सेकंड टॉपिक व्हेंचर कॅपिटल अँड सिक्युरिटायझेशनमधील व्हेंचर कॅपिटल म्हणजे काय या घटकाचा पूर्णपणे अभ्यास केलेला आहे. पुढच्या लेक्चरला सिक्युरिटायझेशन या घटकाचा अभ्यास करूया.